that quiet's something inside. Now friend, you've been riding this life trail long enough to know something ain't quite adding up. You do your work, you pay your dues, you chase what the world says matters, and yet when the noise dies down and you're sitting there in the quiet, there's still that little itch in your soul you can't quite scratch. Like an old windmill that just keeps creaking in the night, there's this steady turning inside you saying, there's more to you than this. That feeling, it ain't new and it sure ain't just yours. It's older than barbed wire, older than any fence line or town map, older than every book ever stacked on a preacher's shelf. It's the same feeling folks have had sitting under desert stars, watching the fire die down to coals, wondering why their heart is so stirred by the simple fact that they're here at all. These are ancient truths, partner. They don't belong to one preacher, one teacher, or one church house. They're baked into the soul of every man and woman that ever drew breath. Somewhere along the way, the world taught you a smaller story. Told you you're just this name, this body, this pile of memories and mistakes. Taught you life's a kind of rodeo where you're on your own bronc, trying not to get thrown, trying to impress the crowd, hoping you don't get trampled in the dust. Rewards if you win, shame if you fall, and you bought that story, or at least you tried to. Even while you're playing along, there's still that quiet part deep down that never quite signs the contract. The quiet part is older than your fears and younger than your worries. It's that simple sense of I am that was in you long before you knew what a paycheck or a reputation even was. Think back to being a kid out under a big sky, lying in the grass, watching the clouds drag their shadows across the pasture. You weren't thinking about success or failure. You weren't comparing yourself to anyone. You were just there wide-eyed, taking it all in. That right there was the first time you brushed up against what's still with you now. A deep, steady presence that don't rise and fall with the stock market or gossip in town. As the years rolled on, your mind learned to talk more than it listens. It picked up all kinds of notions. I'm this kind of person. I ain't that kind. I'm better than him. I ain't good as her. Like slapping brands on cattle, the mind started branding everything me and not me. Before long, that noisy critter in your head was acting like it owns the whole ranch. But underneath all that jabber, there's another kind of eye that don't brag, don't tremble, and don't change with the weather. It's not the voice that argues, it's the space that hears the argument. It's not the one riding wild emotions, it's a calm rider sitting in the saddle watching those feelings buck and twist and then settle back down. That deeper eye is the same in you as it is in every other soul, no matter what hat they wear or what kind of boots they walk in. It's like one big sky over a mess of different fields. When you start to notice that, something in you relaxes. You see that a whole lot of your misery came from mistaking the noisy story spinning mind for the real you. That little eye's always worried about money, image, who respects you, who doesn't. The ancient truth inside you doesn't fret like that. It just stands there in the middle of your being, quiet as dawn on an empty pasture, watching everything come and go. This here talk is just an invitation to turn and look at that for yourself. You don't need to climb a mountain or join some fancy group. You're already standing in the only place that matters. Right where you are, in this breath, in this moment, with that quiet awareness glowing in you, like a lantern in the dark.
Hey partners, may I politely request that you help us grow this channel by liking and subscribing. Much obliged. Now let's talk about the biggest dust storm of all. This notion that you're separate, on your own, some stray cow wandering the mesquite with nobody claiming you. Most folks walk around thinking they're just one small, scared somebody in a big, harsh world trying to stake out a little patch of safety. From that kind of thinking comes all sorts of trouble. Greed, meanness, and that clawing need to get ahead of the next fella. Life turns into a poker game where everybody's scared of losing their stack. But those ancient truths inside you say different. They whisper, look closer. Sure, you feel like you're in here, inside your skin, looking out at a world out there. But if you pay attention, you'll notice something strange. Everything you've ever known, every sound, every sight, every thought, every heartache showed up in the same one place. Right inside your own awareness. You've never actually stepped outside that. Not once. Now your story looks different from your neighbors, different parents, different jobs, different scars and victories. That's all true enough. On the surface, we're as different as a longhorn and a jackrabbit. But underneath, the basic feeling of I'm here, I exist, I'm aware, that's the same in everybody. The faces change, the lives change, but the plain fact of being aware is one and the same. Like a river twisting through different stretches of land, up in the hills, down in the flats, it's still the same water. These old truths don't ask you to toss your personality in the trash. You don't have to stop liking what you like or talking how you talk. You don't have to shave down your edges and pretend to be some blank floating angel. What they do is change the way you see yourself. Instead of some nervous drifter trying to survive, you start to see yourself as a one-of-a-kind way this whole mysterious life is showing up for a while. Your individuality becomes your saddle and boots, not the whole horse, not the whole range. Trouble is, we keep mistaking thoughts for truth. Every time a thought pops up saying I'm no good, or I'm better than them, or I'm alone in this, and you swallow it whole, you tighten those old knots of separation. It's like roping yourself and calling it freedom. The ancient knowing inside you gently tugs your sleeve and says, easy there, cowboy. That's just another story blowing through. It ain't what you really are. Try this sometime. When that mental chatter gets loud, don't argue with it. Just ask yourself, who's hearing all this? Who's watching these thoughts stampede across my mind? Right then, your attention steps back a bit. You stop riding every wild idea and start standing where you can see the whole herd from a little distance. That quiet seeing, that's you. Not the thoughts, not the fear, the one who notices. When you look from there, other folks start to appear different too. They ain't just props in your personal drama anymore. You can see they're fighting their own battles, listening to their own lying thoughts, carrying their own hurts. You recognize that same old ache in them that you know in yourself. And right there, without trying to be holy about it, compassion starts to rise up like water in a spring. Not because you think you should care, but because on some level you know you're made of the same stuff. Life storms still come, no doubt about it. Crops fail, people leave, bodies wear out, plans fall through. You might find yourself flat on your back, staring up at the rafters, wondering what in the world happened. But even then, if you look close, you'll find that same big sky within you, holding it all. The pain blows through like weather, but that inner sky doesn't tear or break. When you forget this, every little trouble feels like the end of the trail. You grip harder, fight louder, and wear yourself out. When you remember, you still feel the sting, but you're not so lost in it. You sense you're not astray after all. Some deep old presence has you in its hands, the same way it's held every soul that's ever walked this earth. These truths don't belong to any one outfit. They've been seen and spoken in 100 different ways on every patch of ground folks have ever lived on. They're part of the human heart, same as the beat of blood and the rise of breath, and they're sitting in you right now, waiting for you to notice. Much obliged if you like and subscribe, my friends. How do you ride through your days? Handle your business, love your people, and face this rough and tumble world while staying true to what you know in your bones. First thing is simple. Remember, come back to it over and over. You don't have to stop your life or go sit on a mountaintop. As you're riding a long, empty trail, feel your hands on the reins and notice the awareness behind that feeling. As you're talking to somebody, notice there's a quiet witness inside you hearing every word. When anger or worry flares up, catch it and see how it shows up in that same inner space you've had since you were a child. It's like touching home base. Again and again, you turn back toward that steady center. Next comes trust. When you start to sense there's a deeper wisdom at the reins, something bigger than your anxious plans, you're invited to lean into it. That don't mean sitting on a stump waiting for miracles while the barn falls down. You still mend fences, pay bills, show up where you said you'd be. But you do it without that constant knot of fear in your gut. You make your best call, then let the outcome belong to something wiser than your worrying mind. You might start asking a different kind of question when choices show up. Instead of what'll make me look good or what scares me least, you ask what feels true in my gut. What lines up with that quiet, solid place inside? The answer won't always be the easy road. Sometimes it'll ask you to let go of something or someone. Sometimes it'll nudge you to speak up when you'd rather stay quiet. But even when it's hard, that inner yes has a clean feel to it, like good water. Then there's compassion, and that one sneaks up on you. The more you see that the same deep presence lives in every pair of eyes you meet, the harder it is to write anybody off. You still set boundaries when you need to. You still say no when no is called for. But underneath, there's this steady recognition that person's hurting just like I've hurt. They're confused just like I've been confused. You start to talk softer, listen longer, and judge a little less quick. Not because you're trying to be some saint, but because you can't help but feel the shared humanness in all of us. Now, living this way doesn't buy you a trouble-free life. Storms still roll in. You'll bury people you love. You'll see plans fall apart and dreams change shape. That's just how this world spins. But instead of taking every hardship as proof you're cursed or forgotten, you start asking different questions. What's this here to show me? How can this grow my heart instead of shrink it? As that old separate self softens, you don't need as much polish and praise to feel okay. You ain't so desperate to win every argument or be right all the time. You can admit when you're wrong without feeling like you're falling off the map. You can enjoy good times without clutching at them and face bad times without thinking they define you. You become more like a clear window than a brick wall, something that lets the light in and out. There'll be moments maybe sitting on a porch at sundown or driving under a big stretch of stars when a kind of unearned gratitude sneaks up on you. Nothing special might be happening outside, but inside you feel mighty thankful just to be here, breathing, watching this show of life roll by. You realize you aren't missing some magic piece out there. The same quiet power that runs rivers and turns seasons is sitting right at the center of your own chest. These truths ain't fancy. They're plain as dirt, old as time, and they live in every single person, whether they know it or not. They've been whispered in every language, around every campfire, in every little chapel and lonely kitchen. They're not owned by any group. They're written in the way awareness feels when it finally stops running from itself. And right now, listen to these words. You've got the chance to feel them for yourself. You don't have to wait till you've straightened out every bad habit or tied up every loose end. You don't have to be more holy or more clever. All you gotta do is notice. You are here, you are aware, and there is a quiet sense of I am that has walked with you through every mess and miracle so far. If you rest there, even for a spell, you're standing in the same old truth that's been calling to folks since the first campfires burned on this earth. It ain't out beyond the horizon. It ain't hidden books. It's sitting right where it's always been. Inside you, steady as bedrock. You're a part of something whole, friend. You always were. And the more you remember that, the more your days start to line up with what's real, till one morning you find yourself riding out not as some lost drifter, but as what you've always sacredly been, an expression of that one great presence, awake and alive under a wide open sky. Join in. Subscribe and like.